Hello! Today we're going to be discussing content creators and whether or not they are good for the game Dead by Daylight. Obviously, I do have a bias. I stream Dead by Daylight on Twitch most of the week, and my YouTube content is also heavily DBD related. I will do my best to be objective, but my opinions are likely going to be here and there still. Before we do dive into the topic at hand, I just wanted to say thank you for all of the support recently, and just to say if you do enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to never miss out on a video. So today we are going to be discussing content creators. To do this, we are going to first look at what we mean by a social influencer, the power of influence, parasocial relationships and how it can influence an audience, then a more focused analysis of a specific content creator, in this case SpooknJukes, who did give me the thumbs up to go ahead and discuss him in relation to this topic. Finally, we'll discuss potential overall effects of content creators on the DBD community. So let's do this. An influencer is someone who has the power to affect the purchasing decisions of others because of his or her authority, knowledge, position, or relationship with his or her audience. It is important to note that these individuals are not merely marketing tools, but rather social relationship assets with which brands can collaborate to achieve their marketing objectives. Anyone who has a number of dedicated viewers can become an influencer essentially. They can sway their audience to, for example, try a product, download a game, or even help develop their opinions on a topic. In terms of Dead by Daylight, this may be to convince people to purchase DLC, the game itself, or even shift their opinions of Behaviour Interactive and/or specific elements of the game. This leads us to the concept of power. Power can be defined as one's ability to exert influence over another. If we focus on platforms such as Twitch.tv and YouTube.com, it is possible that larger social influencers have the ability to exert power over other content creators. In 1959, French and Raven proposed the 5 bases of power: legitimate, reward, expert, referent, and coercive. And in 1965 they also added informational, making 6. For now we'll just focus on a few of these that are applicable to our topic. Reward refers to a belief that by conforming to a person of greater power, this can result in a reward of some kind. In the case of YouTube, this could be a shout out or a collaborative video, and on Twitch, perhaps a similar situation or a raid where one streamer brings their audience to another. This allows personal opinions to spread even further and to a wider audience. I'm not saying influencers only conform to get clout, but like with any work-based relationship, power dynamics do exist, and this will likely influence opinions and actions even if unknowingly. The concept of power and influence also extends further though to an audience. Another basis of power is known as expert power. This refers to the idea that one person sees another as a professional in that topic, and thusly trusts their perspectives. So an educational DBD creator who specialises with a specific killer, an audience might be influenced by their perspective surrounding that killer as an expert on that topic. Further to this is referent power, which refers to the concept of the feeling of a personal relationship, a sense of admiration or approval towards someone allowing for trust in their judgment. In other words, it occurs when a feeling of oneness is achieved. Kozinets in 1999 suggested a typology of 4 distinct community member types: devotees, insiders, minglers, and tourists. Devotees are those who have formed an interest in a particular consumption activity but lack social ties to members of an online virtual community. So in terms of DBD, this is the audience members who are only really interested in watching a streamer play Dead by Daylight, and tend to lurk. Insiders too do have an interest in a particular consumption, but also tend to have a strong connection to the online community members themselves. In this case, these are active participants in the chat when Dead by Daylight is the subject of gameplay. Minglers have strong social links with other members of the online community, but hold little interest in the consumption activity itself. These are those who will watch a content creator and engage with chat or the comment section regardless of what game is being played, or what the topic of the video is. Finally, there are tourists. They lack any particular interest in the consumption activity, or with anyone in the virtual community. They are people that will stumble upon the content and just give it a watch, and with time can fit into one of the other categories, or they leave. So with this in mind, let's look at parasocial relationships. First, it's worth noting the difference between an interaction and a relationship. Parasocial interactions relate to when an audience member perceives the performer as an intimate conversational partner. An example of this could be when a streamer is speaking to their chat in a general sense, but a viewer may feel spoken to more directly. Parasocial relationships is similar, but can extend beyond any single viewing episode, so it is a feeling of a bond with the creator after a video or an individual stream has completed. One study looking at the importance of parasocial relationships and persuasive effects on followers found that followers of a social media influencer have enhanced purchase intentions and brand evaluations when endorsed by said influencer. This supports the concept that an audience do grow to trust and form opinions based around those of who they watch. And I suggest that those who fit into the categories of insiders or minglers are the most likely to be influenced due to their connection with the virtual community. We have discussed the formation of virtual communities in the past. These are when groups of people come together online around a common interest. Annstrong and Hagel suggested that virtual communities allow organisations the opportunity to form stronger bonds with potential customers. To do this though, they need to provide both social and economic needs. An example of this could be an endorsement of a product from a social media influencer, which then provides a discount for using their code. Or another example of this could be the Fog Whisperer program. So it can be suggested that content creators do form a power dynamic with other influencers, as well as their respective audiences. Their opinions and beliefs are capable of affecting those who watch them. So let's talk more directly. In fact, let's start some drama. Well, maybe not drama as such. We're going to be talking about a particularly divisive figure in the Dead by Daylight community, SpooknJukes, who kindly had no issue with me talking about him so directly, so what a legend. Now I don't know SpooknJukes on a personal level, we do have some mutual friends, but I've not let any of this impact the discussion at hand. SpooknJukes is a Twitch streamer with over 66,000 followers and a YouTuber who recently hit over 100,000 subscribers. He is known for his Basement Bubba playstyle and we'll talk about that shortly, his love of the perk Noed, and his content cop style videos calling out toxic behaviours by other creators. First, I want to say, I like SpooknJukes. I think he makes great content and strikes me as a good dude. Having said that though, I don't agree with everything he says, and we're going to be respectful, but still discuss that now. But first, I want to look at what I consider to be the good. A series of videos SpooknJukes has produced on YouTube focus on highlighting the negative behaviours of other content creators and social influencers in the DBD space. The general premise of these videos is looking at what is often an average game of Dead by Daylight, whilst the focused streamer overreacts and takes the game far too seriously. This often takes the form of horrible comments to the other players, degrading remarks about their audience if they are also a streamer, and just generally disgusting entitled attitudes. What highlighting this achieves is to hopefully discourage others from acting in a similar way. By mocking and shaming the behaviour, it makes people less keen to mimic it in any form. It also encourages those called out to reflect on how they present themselves and the behaviours they enact. Not only do these types of videos provide a good source of entertainment, but also provide a less negative environment among the DBD community in most cases. So basically, creators are able to somewhat police the community by drawing their audience's attention to undesirable behaviours. Likewise though, you could point to creators being the perpetrators of such toxic behaviours, which has the opposite result. But in the case of SpooknJukes, he is doing a good job of highlighting and degrading undesirable behaviour. Now let's discuss the main differences we have. What I consider to be the less than good. Camping and tunnelling are two phrases which are often thrown around in DBD. Camping refers to staying close to a hooked survivor. This could be a killer directly standing in front of the hook, or say a huntress atop a nearby hill with their hatchet ready for a free hit. Tunnelling refers to continually targeting a singular survivor if they are unhooked, sometimes to remove them from the game as soon as possible, other times to ensure they are on dead hook, forcing them to play more cautiously from an early stage in the game. SpooknJukes is well known for playing a killer from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, Bubba the Cannibal. This character has the ability to throw his chainsaw around, instantly downing survivors unfortunate enough to be in his path. Over the years, this killer has proven to be maybe the best camper in the game. This mixed with a perk called Insidious allows for Bubba to become undetectable. Having no terror radius near hooks means if a survivor does foolishly come for the unhook, they are pounced on and often both survivors now end up hooked. This playstyle often focuses on the basement as well, known as Basement Bubba. I have described what it is about Dead by Daylight which makes the game so great in the past. In a nutshell though, looping. The Basement Bubba playstyle does what it can to avoid this element of the core loop, and focuses on easier kills or securing the one kill whilst the other three survivors repair generators and leave. Now admittedly, I barely bump into this particular tactic. Starstruck Nurse is my personal constant plight. Basement Bubba is very counterable as a team, but it denies whoever is caught first the ability to do much. Their score is often going to be quite poor, reflecting that they've not really gotten to play. It's a playstyle which preys on the solo queuers and punishes them for it. It doesn't feel fair, and as a result attracts frustration and sometimes aggressive post-game chats, which is something that some players seek out after seeing the playstyle publicised. Another good example of this was the AFK pig build, where a pig player would body block a jigsaw trap. Bringing the videotape add-on, this placed a reverse bear trap on all survivors at the start of a match. They would then go AFK and let RNG maybe secure a kill after they've been trapped in an uninteresting match as their heads explode. Behaviour even adjusted the pig to counter this playstyle altogether by adding in an extra jigsaw box. Behaviour clearly have no issue with the Basement Bubba playstyle, but many in the community do. There's not much in terms of interactive fun gameplay between the killer and survivors in these playstyles. It's just sort of there, and frustrates players. I don't really mind them, I don't personally enjoy them myself, but I have no crusade against them either. But I do think it could be suggested that these playstyles are popularised by content creators, and as a result more games are less fun because players seek to replicate them, and seek out the salty post-game reactions. This brings me on to my next topic, social responsibility. There is a mindset that one player is not responsible for another's enjoyment of a game, and for the most part I do agree. In Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, Hunt Showdown, League of Legends, Overwatch, etc, you're not. But these are balanced competitive games, meaning you play them knowing the other side has a fair and equal chance to play. Dead by Daylight is a casual asymmetrical game, with some competitive elements, but ultimately struggles with overall balance. The killer is always the power role, and has the ability to dictate the game. If a killer decides to target a survivor out of the game, they can, and it spoils their experience, and at 5 gens, sort of ruins everyone else's too. I will also say that survivor bully squads are out there and do take games hostage, and they are just as bad, but they at least need to be super sweaty and coordinated to achieve this. Any one killer can ruin a survivor's game so long as they can catch them. Nearly discusses how a game's community is not just in the game itself, it's how it acts in other venues such as forums. They go on to suggest that the players have ethical responsibilities towards other players within a game. While games take place in a fictional space, the players are real and can suffer real harms. I would suggest purposefully playing in a way to spoil another's experience and maybe frustrate them can result in real life harm. A study looking into violent video games' effects on aggression found that violent games can result in rumination, especially among men. Essentially, reoccurring and repetitive thoughts about something, in this case frustration at a specific game. This can lead to an increase in aggressive behaviours 24 hours later, suggesting a negative effect on the mind. I would suggest particular playstyles can further promote these feelings, which I believe can result in real harm to another actual person's mindset, making them more aggressive. I'm not saying SpooknJukes plays in this style to attract salt, but it clearly does frustrate many players. You could suggest that responsibility lies with those with this aggressive tendency to the game. Perhaps they should step away from said game. But I believe this can be quite difficult for many who likely use DBD as their social connection to others, or maybe have some form of addiction to that particular gaming space. All I am trying to say here is that maybe we shouldn't prioritise the early game advantage over someone's ability to play the game. Perhaps it is too easy to disconnect one's online avatar from them being an actual person. The same does however apply to survivors. Though killers can be quite sweaty, I rarely come across survivors who will tone down their own sweat when they clearly have an advantage. If anything, they become even more obnoxious about it. Basically, survivors and killers are just as bad as each other. And camping, tunneling, teabagging and flashlight clicking all have strategic uses. Utilising them isn't necessarily wrong. A lot of the time it just depends on the situation. 1 or 2 gens left? Camp away, I would. The killer is tunneling? Teabag them and get them to chase you instead. It makes sense. There's still an element of competition to DBD. Winning feels better than losing. I just don't think that winning should be at the expense of someone being able to have a fair chance to play in a match. Anyway, my point is, these perhaps less fun playstyles are further popularised and encouraged by content creators, which in some case will drive away casual players, or at the very least result in some matches in DBD being less desirable. Killer queues have gone up for a reason. I personally blame Starstruck Nurse though. Just to say one more time as well, I have no personal issue with SpooknJukes, I like the guy. People can have a difference of opinion without there being an actual issue. We're all friends here. Tunneling, camping, Basement Bubba, the competitive desire to win are all part of the game. Behaviour has designed the game with these playstyles to be used. I just personally don't think it's always the most engaging or fun way to play, but there's nothing morally wrong with it. Either way, let's discuss the potential lasting effects of content creators on the overall community. First, the positives. One of the clearest benefits of DBD featuring such a large number of content creators is drawing attention to the game itself. Undoubtedly, the game's larger viewership has increased interest and the overall player base in the game. This has led to more customers purchasing the game and its DLC, further supporting the product's development. Behaviour Interactive leans into this with its Fog Whisperer program. This has further integrated the company with the online community by having social influencers specifically affiliated with the game. These particular streamers give out free DLC codes, advertise its updates, and tend to spread a more positive perspective of the game. This can help with the public image of the game itself, spreads a feeling of inclusivity and community whilst also helping with overall numbers. It is likely that the higher viewership and player base numbers further help with acquiring more licenses as well. It's a cycle that allows the game to flourish. There are, however, some negatives. A large number of DBD creators focus on one role over the other, either playing Survivor or Killer. They'll occasionally play the other role too, but they have a preferred primary role that they main. This tends to attract specific audiences which also prefer that role. This fuels an us versus them mentality between survivors and killers. Many Survivor mains struggle to empathise with the killer's plight, teabagging, flashlight clicking, and worse sometimes, even when the killer has played fairly and had a rough match. On the other hand, killer mains have little care for Survivor's ability to play and will tunnel and camp early and often to ensure the win rather than having a fair matchup. There can also be some hypocrisy at times as well on both sides. My favourite as of late was, Survivors just need to adapt mindset in relation to the recent killer buffs with the 6.1.0 update. Many Survivors have done just that, but now prove thyself is a problem. I mean, just adapt, right? Come on, killers. That one is directed at a very small minority of killer mains, by the way. Then there is the cult of high MMR. Here is a poignant tweet from a good friend of mine, possibly the most competitive Dead by Daylight player on Twitch, Fog Whisperer Running Man, who describes the trend thusly: all you need as a killer main to achieve maximum MMR is to put it in your stream title. I wonder if it's some people don't fully understand why matchmaking leads to them having such challenging matches. You're matched with similar skill leveled players. This does not mean you are high MMR, but some will justify unfun playstyles like early game tunneling with "it's high MMR", when chances are, it's not, and every team is a Swift of course. My point is, some content creators portray a false idea of what competitive high MMR games look like to their audiences. This results in them enacting unfun playstyles rather than trying to get better at the game. When honestly, most of the time, if you want to get better at the game, it is better to go for hooks over kills. Dead by Daylight is as asymmetrical as a game can be. It will never be balanced. Some maps will give the killer the advantage and vice versa. It's a casual game, and these sometimes aggressive survivor versus killer mentalities may point that some players take the game too seriously. And I feel that sometimes it is fueled by content creators needlessly. In my video discussing why people don't seem able to stop playing Dead by Daylight, we discussed the idea of negatively driven virtual communities. A study by Boson et al. Suggested there seems to be something especially delicious about the process of sharing our grievances about other people. As members of a community, we form stronger connections with others through sharing negative attitudes about a third party rather than positive. This could suggest there is a benefit to developing a community around negativity rather than positivity in terms of drawing in more people. Community building is good, but it is worth noting studies into negativity bias in relation to emotional disorders suggested an underappreciation of positive objects and events may underlie vulnerability to emotional disorders, meaning a more negative cognitive style could make you more susceptible to anxiety and depression. So in conclusion, social influencers are fantastic for building up Dead by Daylight's virtual communities. They've helped give people a safe place to go, meet people, and build a social network with a common interest. Social influencers like SpooknJukes also have a positive impact on the community, by advertising healthier interactions and shaming those who enact toxic behaviours. Though it is also possible that social influencers have also damaged the community with ideas suggesting that other people's enjoyment is lesser than your own. But as I said earlier, that is just a playstyle I happen to dislike. There's nothing morally wrong with it, though I do hope it's a mindset that doesn't bleed into real life. Furthermore, the more aggressively negative elements of the community could generate greater negativity bias in individuals, which ultimately can be very unhealthy, but likewise, there are positive social influences out there too. Ultimately, issues with any particular playstyles do fall on behaviour. It's their game design after all that encourages it. Just some food for thought at least. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to SpooknJukes again for being cool with me making this video. Do go send them some love and check them out, their links are in the description. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this, and if you do have any thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Either way, have an amazing day, and I will hopefully see you again in the next video. See you later, bye!